Shri Gurubhyo Namaha children, I welcome you all to our next English class, and let us continue the lesson of the adventures of TOTO. In the last class we saw TOTO was kept as a secret and he was creating a mess with the other animals, and the grandfather had to take him along to Dehradun. So that's where we stopped. Let us continue and see what happened further in the story, children. Unfortunately, I could not accompany grandfather on that trip, but he told me about it afterwards. So the narrator was not able to accompany, which means what? To go along with the grandfather to Dehradun, but the grandfather comes back and says the story, what was happening. A big black canvas kit bag was provided for TOTO. This, with some straw at the bottom, became his new abode. So we saw grandfather had decided to take TOTO along with him. In what is he being carried is the next problem. So there is a big kit bag. You know, we have play kits, kit bags, okay, a big black canvas kit bag. Here you can see in the picture was given, wherein the bottom was spread with hay, okay, and on top of it TOTO was kept. That became his new abode. Abode means what? A place of residence or the place to stay. When the bag was closed, there was no escape. TOTO could not get his hands through the opening and the canvas was too strong for him to bite his way through. So when he was put inside and zip locked, he was not able to put his hands out, he was not able to stick his head out, nothing was possible because the canvas bag was thick, okay, he was not also able to bite it and come out, okay. His efforts to get out only had the effect of making the bag roll about on the floor or occasionally jump in the air, an exhibition that attracted a curious crowd of onlookers on the Dehradun railway platform. So he was, you know, obviously it is a monkey and it is a small monkey, it's a very curious and mischievous animal. So it is now trying inside to come out, to release itself out, but he was not able to come out, and as a result of which, when the bag was left on the floor, it was rolling, it was jumping in the air occasionally, and the crowd, okay, who passed this bag were surprised, were curious enough to know what was causing the bag to jump and to roll. TOTO remained in the bag as far as the Saharanpur, but while grandfather was producing his ticket at the railway turnstile, okay, all this was smooth, he was just inside the bag and he was just jumping, but he was not able to come out until he was producing his ticket at the turnstile. Turnstile means, see, you can see here the turnstile, a kind of a rotating, it has four doors which would rotate, you could pass and you could come out, okay. In the railway station, you have, if you produce a ticket, that part of the door will open and you can move, okay, kind of a rotating door. So when he was producing the ticket at the turnstile, TOTO suddenly poked his head out of the bag and gave the ticket collector a wide grin. So all of a sudden TOTO came out, okay, and he showed his face to the ticket collector. The poor man was taken aback, but with a great presence of mind and much to the grandfather's annoyance, he said, "Sir, you have a dog with you." So when TOTO looked out and gave his face a little smile at the ticket counter he didn't know what animal, okay, he says, "Sir, you have brought a dog with you." Okay, grandfather was annoyed, okay, somebody calling a monkey as a dog. "You will have to pay for it accordingly." So the ticket collector is telling, "Sir, you have brought an animal, particularly a dog, so you must pay for taking the animal with you." In vain did grandfather take TOTO out of the bag. In vain did he try to prove that a monkey did not qualify as a dog or even as a quadruped. So, what he is telling, the moment grandfather heard that the animal was called as a dog, in order to prove the ticket collector that it was not a dog and not even a quadruped. Quadruped means quadruped means animals with 4 legs. Okay, animals which have 4 legs are called as the quadrupeds, and he says it is not a dog, and particularly it does not qualify itself as any animal which has 4 legs because it is a monkey. So, he took out TOTO out of the bag to prove the ticket collector that it was not a dog. TOTO was classified a dog by the ticket collector, and 3 rupees was the sum handed over as his fare. So, the ticket collector was not worried, okay, he was not bothered what animal you have brought. For me it is a dog and you have to pay fare for the animal. So, the grandfather also in vain he left, okay, trying to prove, okay, and he is willing to pay the fare. Then grandfather, just to get his own bag, took from his pocket our pet tortoise and said, "What must I pay for this, since you charge for all animals?" So, now the grandfather was worried, if in case I have to pay for animals, I have brought one more animal with me. So, he picks out a tortoise from his pocket and shows to the ticket collector, if in case I have to pay, how much should I pay for this tortoise? TOTO suddenly, the ticket collector looked closely at the tortoise, prodded it with his forefinger, gave grandfather a pleased and triumphant look and said, "No charge, it is not a dog." So, the grandfather is handing out a tortoise. He is showing the ticket collector the tortoise. So, the ticket collector, he is prodding. Prodding means what? He is inspecting with the fingertips and he is telling, "No, no, you need not pay for this because it is not a dog." So, the ticket collector is bothered only about dog. He sees any animal, he is bothered whether it is a dog or it is not a dog. So, since this tortoise does not qualify for a dog, he says there is no charge for this animal. When TOTO was finally accepted by the grandmother, he was given a comfortable home in the stable where he had for a companion the family donkey Nana. So, finally grandmother had accepted this TOTO and there was a space given for TOTO in the family private zoo. I told you they were maintaining lots of animals. So, this grandmother gave him a special place and there was a companion which was the family donkey Nana. Okay, the family donkey was called Nana. On TOTO's first night in the stable, grandfather paid him a visit to see if he was comfortable. So, that was the first night, okay, of TOTO in the stable, which means with the other animal. Okay. So, he is going and paying a visit just to check on him whether everything is going on well. To his surprise, he found Nana without apparent cause pulling at her halter and trying to keep her head as far as possible from the bundle of hay. So, he is just going for checking. So, at that time he saw this Nana was pulling the halter. Halter means this case. This case, to tie the animal is called as a halter. This Nana was pulling the halter and she was keeping her face away from the hay. And there was no reason. So, this grandfather was checking what was the reason, why was the donkey behaving strangely. Grandfather gave Nana a slap across her haunches and she jerked back, dragging TOTO with her. So, grandfather did not understand what was happening. So, what he is doing, he is slapping. Slapping means what? He is giving a blow on the horse haunch. Haunch is the backside. So, this part of the animal is called as a haunch. Okay. So, he is beating on the haunch of the donkey and she jerked, which means what? She is jerking and she is dragging back this little monkey TOTO along with it. He had fastened on to her long ears with his sharp teeth. So, what was happening was TOTO had been biting the donkey's ears, okay, and he had fastened, means or tightly placed his teeth on the ears of the donkey. TOTO and Nana never became friends. A great treat for TOTO during cold winter evenings was the large bowl of warm water given him by grandmother for his bath. So, from then on, because he bit Nana, Nana was not able to socialize with TOTO. So, they never became friends. So, what was the treat for this little monkey was the warm water which was given by the grandmother for him to take a bath. He would cunningly test the temperature with his hand, then gradually step into the bath, first one foot and then other, as he had seen me doing, until he was into the water up to his neck. So, grandmother, what she would do, every now and then she would give him a bath, okay, a vessel with hot water or a warm water for him to take bath, for TOTO to take bath. What this TOTO would do, he would carefully, okay, he uses his mind, he carefully touches the water and understands the temperature of the water. Only after that he would step by step get into the water bath, because the author says that TOTO has watched him doing so. Okay, when the narrator was given the water bath, he would do like that. He would check the temperature and only then hop into the water bath. Similarly, this little monkey was also checking the temperature before getting into the water bath. Once comfortable, he would take the soap in his hands or feet and rub himself all over. When the water became cold, he would get out and run as quickly as he could to the kitchen fire in order to dry himself. So, what this monkey would do, he would take the soap in his hand and he would gently rub on himself. He would take a nice bath. Okay, he would take a bath until the water has become cold. Once the water has become cold, he would hop out of the water bath and run to the fireplace. Okay, he knows the fireplace, he would be able to dry himself. So, he would go to the fireplace and dry himself. If anyone laughed at him during his performance, TOTO's feelings would be hurt and he would refuse to go on with his bath. So, if while he was doing, while TOTO was behaving like this, when he would run to go and dry, when he baths, when anybody is laughing at TOTO, TOTO would never go to bath again, because his feeling would get hurt or he would get embarrassed by the laughter of the people. One day, TOTO nearly succeeded in boiling himself alive. A large kitchen kettle had been left on the fire to boil for tea, and TOTO, finding himself with nothing better to do, decided to remove the lid. So, one day what happened? There was a kitchen kettle, okay, it was left on the fire for tea to boil. Since this TOTO had nothing to do, okay, what he did, he didn't have any better thing to do. He thought it to be a water bath and he tried to open the lid of the kettle. Finding the water just warm enough for a bath, he got in with his head sticking out from the open kettle. So, he thought it to be a water bath. Okay, he thought that the grandmother has provided him water bath for him to bath, and just he would check the temperature, it was warm for him. So, he stepped into the kettle, okay, thinking it to be a water bath. He jumped into the kettle. This was just fine for a while until the water began to boil. So, it is a running, it is a thing which was placed on an open fire. Okay, when the time lapses, the tea would boil. So, when TOTO entered, it was just warm, and after a while it started to boil. TOTO then raised himself a little, but finding it cold outside, sat down again. So, whenever it was becoming hot inside and down for him, he would raise a bit, and the atmosphere outside was cold. So, what he would do, he would again go and sit inside the kettle. He continued hopping up and down for some time until grandmother arrived and hauled him half boiled out of the kettle. Okay, he was repeating the same thing. He would come, he would hop up, check the temperature outside. If it was cold, he would then go into the kettle again. Okay, when the time lapses, what would happen, children? The water would start to boil even more. Okay, if it is going to be boiling, definitely Toto would be boiled alive inside the kettle, and luckily grandmother saw this. Okay, what she did, she hauled him. Hauled him means what? She pulled or she pushed him out of the kettle, and he was half boiled, which means what? He was nearly about to cook himself alive in the kettle. If there is a part of brain especially devoted to mischief, that part was largely developed in Toto. So, they came to a conclusion, if there is any part of the brain which works only on mischievousness, that part of the brain was too large for Toto. Only that part was working better for him. He was always tearing things to pieces. Whenever one of my aunts came near him, he made every effort to get hold of her dress and tear a hole in it. So, he was very mischievous, and that whenever somebody came to meet, okay, somebody came to meet the narrator or the grandmother or the grandfather, what this little monkey would do, he would manage to do a hole, okay, he would manage to tear a hole into the dress of the guests. One day at lunchtime, a large dish of pulao stood in the center of the dining table. We entered the room to find Toto stuffing himself with rice. My grandmother screamed and Toto threw a plate at her. So, there was another occasion wherein the pulao was prepared and a large dish of pulao was made and kept on the table, and to their surprise, what happened, this Toto had taken away the pulao and he started stuffing himself, means what, he started filling himself with the rice. When grandmother screamed because she was shocked, it was prepared for everybody and this little monkey it has taken away everything and it started eating. When the grandmother screamed, this Toto, it threw a plate at her face. One of my aunts rushed forward and received a glass of water in the face. So, on seeing this, another aunt of the narrator, she rushes forward to save the rice and she is now banged with a glass of water at her face. When grandfather arrived, Toto picked up the dish of pulao and made his exit through the window. So, now the grandfather is coming in for rescue. This time what this monkey is doing, it is taking the dish of the pulao and it is escaping out through the window. We found him in the branches of the jackfruit tree, the dish still in his arms. He remained there all afternoon, eating slowly through the rice, determined on finishing every grain. So, he took this dish and went and sat on a jackfruit tree and he stayed there all day. He was determined, okay, he was focused on eating every morsel of rice in the dish. He did not want to waste anything. He waited all day and he was slowly stuffing himself with the rice. And then, in order to spite grandmother who had screamed at him, he threw the dish down from the tree and chattered with delight when it broke into 100 pieces. So, this little monkey was agitated. In order to give back the agitation which the grandmother gave for him, this monkey, what it is doing, after eating, it puts down, okay, he is wantonly throwing the dish down. When the dish went and it broke into 100 pieces, he started making a happy giggle, he started chattering. Obviously, Toto was not a sort of pet we would keep for long. Even grandfather realized that, okay, and they have come to a conclusion that this little monkey was not a kind of a pet that they would be able to manage keeping at home. Even the grandfather had realized that. We were not well-to-do and could not afford the frequent loss of dishes, clothes, curtains and wallpaper. So, they have come to a conclusion that they cannot keep replacing everything which the monkey is breaking and they are not well to do, which means what? They are not wealthy enough to keep on replacing the items broken by the monkey, and the monkey also cannot keep breaking things and stuffs at home. So, grandfather found the Tonga driver and sold Toto back to him for only 3 rupees. So, grandfather thought that this has to be stopped, okay, something had to be done. So, he finds out the Tonga driver and he gives back the Toto to him and he takes only rupees 3. He is not bothered about the profit or loss, he just wanted to get rid of this animal and he gives it for rupees 3. I hope you would have understood this lesson and enjoyed it too, children. Meet you all in the next class, children. Bye-bye.